Hello my sweet friends and welcome to DIY with Nadia. With me today is Louis, and I promise you he's not sleepy. He just acts like this when the camera goes on. I don't know why. In today's video we are doing a gorgeous big ruffle wreath. So one of the basics, very simple. And look at the sign we are going to use. This one is from the Dollar Tree and I thought it was just so adorable. It has little foxes on there and a cute little hedgehog in the corner there. So a super cute sign. With that said, let's get started on our fall ruffle wreath. Here are the supplies for this wreath, starting with 2 rolls of Deco mesh. Both of these are 10 inches in width and 10 yards in length. I'm going to be using this netting. I got this on Temu and I'm going to cut it up and use it as ribbon. I'm also going to be using this ribbon. Both are wired. The orange one is 1.5 inches and this one is 2.5. 18 pipe cleaners plus whatever pipe cleaners you're going to need for your sign. I'm going to use a few of these orange vase fillers. This adorable sign is quite large. It is a whopping 13.5 inches in width and 9.5 inches in height. But for a ruffle wreath, that is just fine. For the base of our wreath, I'm going to be using a 14-inch metal wreath form. When it comes to our pipe cleaners, we're going to be doing the 18 pipe cleaner method. We have 6 sections in this wreath form, and that means we're going to have 3 pipe cleaners in each section. And I always say we're going to work one section at a time so we don't get overwhelmed. Our first pipe cleaner is going to go on row 1 and 2, right in the center. 2 twists, and we're going to fold it down. The second pipe cleaner is going on row 3 and 4 to the side of the center one. 2 twists, and we're going to face it out. And the third pipe cleaner is going on the other side of the center one, also on rows 3 and 4. 2 twists and fold out. This is what each section is supposed to look like. I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of the wreath base. I'm done attaching all my pipe cleaners. I have 6 on the inner row and 12 on the outer row. Now it's time to prepare my Deco mesh. I usually cut my Deco mesh into 30-inch strips, and I'm going to need 18 of these. But the Deco mesh that I'm going to be using is a little different because it has threading through it, and I usually do a continuous method for this type of Deco mesh, but today we are going to be cutting this into a ruffle wreath. Therefore, I decided to give it a few more inches on the end. So instead of 30 inches, I'm going to make it 32 to 34 inches because I want to do a bigger fold on the ends before I start ruffling it up. My cutting board is 24 inches plus that 1/2 inch at the end. So I usually put my ruler at 5.5 inches and put it underneath the cutting mat to give me the 30 inches. Since I want my Deco mesh to be at least 2 inches longer, I'm going to go ahead and extend my ruler to 7.5 inches, and we're going to start cutting our Deco mesh. Grabbing my favorite rotary cutter, off I go, making 18 strips. Roll it up naturally because it is a long piece of Deco mesh, and put it to the side. Now I will be making my ruffles, and I always like to do it on my cutting mat. That way I know where the center is, especially if you're using a solid color for your Deco mesh. I'm going to be making, I don't know, maybe a 2-inch little fold. I usually make it 1 inch. You don't need much, but this time I just want to make sure that we have that fraying under control. But you know what? I'll tell you this. It seems to be really solid and not as much fraying as I expected. So I'm quite happy with this Deco mesh. In the description box, I always list where I got the items that I'm using. And now I'm just going to gather. This is so much fun. Just take your time and gather. Look at this. So easy. Because I started with my Deco mesh being rolled onto the table, you can see that it's naturally already curled underneath. And all I'm going to do is put it flat at about those 2 inches and wiggle it in. What a gorgeous ruffle. I am really, really impressed with this Deco mesh. Pull and give a few twists. And just like that, I have my first ruffle. And now the story kind of repeats itself. Going to fold, ruffle everything up, flatten the end of it, and wiggle it in. A few twists. Oh my goodness, this is only 2 curls. This is going to be one full wreath. I'm going to go ahead and finish attaching the rest of my ruffles, and then we'll work on the ribbon bundles. As worried as I was about this Deco mesh fraying, I'm telling you guys, I think it's actually fraying less than the average Deco mesh. Wow, I absolutely love how this turned out. Now it's time to get our ribbon ready. To cut this mesh, it's going to be so easy. So what I'm going to do is go to the center and just pull that cardboard out. It's not taped on or anything. So just pull out how much you need. So if we're doing about 2.5 inches to 3 inches, just pull that out, or a little bit more. I think 2.5 inches is more than enough. So let's do 2.5 inches, and I'm just going to cut it. And we're done. If you're going to need more of it, just pull out the center and cut it. Since I know I cut off about 5 inches, I'm going to cut off that amount on this tube and pop it back in. Now it's time to cut our netting. I'm going to be cutting it into 12-inch strips, and we're going to need 18 pieces. So super easy. And if you want a link where I got this roll, I'm going to attach it in the description box, because this is a game changer for a lot of us who have been hunting down this ribbon and could not find it. And now you can find it in so many beautiful colors besides the beiges and the darker colors that we have been getting. Now we're going to prepare our beautiful lightly iridescent orange ribbon. We are going to need 18 pieces at 12 inches each. When you have zigzagged 18 pieces, go ahead and fold the ends in half and cut out a little triangle, and you're going to have dovetails as you're cutting the ribbon. Next, we're going to cut our ivory brown ribbon, and this one we are also going to cut into 12-inch strips, and we're going to need 18. Just like I did with the orange one, I'm going to zigzag it up and cut dovetails on the ends. To make our bundles, I'm going to be working on my cutting mat just because it's so much easier to have our 12 inches here, and we can find the center super, super easy. Starting with the mesh ribbon just because that's the weakest ribbon. So then I'm going to bring in this ribbon that's going to hold it in place. And the third ribbon I'm going to add is the orange one. Let's bring it together and attach. By the way, when it came to the mesh ribbon, no, I did not do dovetails because I don't see a point of doing dovetails on this kind of ribbon. It really doesn't show, so I never do dovetails on this type of ribbon anymore. I twisted my pipe cleaners up about 1 inch from the connection. I'm going to cut off the excess, fold this part in half, and fold it back. When it comes to opening up my ribbon bundles, I usually do that at the end just because I want to make sure that everything is done in the back of the wreath, that we're not going back and forth. But when we're done, this is the last step I will do. Let's grab our next bundle, collect it in the center, and attach. And this is pretty much the song that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friends, until I'm done with all 18 pipe cleaners. And if I got that song in your head, I do apologize. Okay, my friends, all the ribbon is on. None of the bundles are open yet. And look how lovely this is. And by the way, I think this plaid brown ribbon is quite nice. All right, let's get the sign going. But before we do that, I always like to clean the area where the sign is going. Basically, any ribbon facing the center, we're going to face it away so that we can get that ribbon towards the outside. We can always bring it in, but right now we're just going to get it out of the center. First thing I'm going to do is take the jute cord off. To cover up the holes on top, we're going to disguise them with these vase fillers. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of these orange ones out, especially the small ones. I have some of these right here. I'm going to take a large one and cut it in half. And I'm using a letter opener to do this. Safety first. Give it a little bit of hot glue and put that on the side. This side, I'm going to put a little tiny one. And I'm not going to cut it because it's fairly tiny. And since these don't look the same, it doesn't look like there were holes there in the first place. So then I'm going to take some of the other ones and just put them throughout the sign. Because the sign kind of has things scattered, so no big deal. We're just going to do that. I don't need too many of these, just enough to have them all blend in. Oh, center of the flower. Now that the sign is done, let's flip it and attach pipe cleaners. I'm going to grab 4 because the sign is quite large. Fold it in half, but I am going to keep a flat space right here. So I usually put a finger or 2 just so we can flatten this area and decide how we're going to attach. This is a round wreath. Going in a circle may be a great idea. I also have 4 scrap felt pieces that I'm going to use for this. A little bit of hot glue. Put my pipe cleaner right on that. Hot glue on top of the pipe cleaner and at the bottom. Now I'm just taking my piece of felt and putting it right over. Once this cools, this pipe cleaner is going nowhere. This is going to be a strong connection. Going to repeat this process all around. All the pipe cleaners are attached. Let's flip. Since we have 4 connections, I like to choose 2 of these intersections on top and 2 at the bottom to connect the sign. One pipe cleaner is going to go on one side of the intersection. The other one is going to go on the other. Also making sure I'm in 2 different rows so that we have a nice connection. We're going to do 1 twist because I'm afraid I might have to adjust this. Now it's time to move things around. I want the sign to go in just a tiny bit. It doesn't need to be floating on top. It does need to have a nice seat inside your wreath. Right now, the most important thing is to make sure that the sign is centered. So I'm going to pick it up, look at it, and it looks really good to me. Now I can come back and lock all of these pipe cleaners in place by just twisting them together and then around our wreath base. When you're done securing the sign in place, this is the time to put on a hanging loop. And also, if you're going to cover the back of the wreath, maybe with a placemat, this is the time to do it before we start opening up all our ribbon bundles. Remember that jute cord we removed from the sign? We're going to use it. Make sure you're looking at the top of the sign. Mine looks like it's right here, and I'm going to attach to row 2. Then I'm going to measure to make sure that my loop is not going to go above my ruffles so it doesn't show a knot or 2. Cut that off. Pull it through the front of the wreath. And that's because if you're going to cover the back, we still need access to the hanging loop. And now it's time to do my favorite part, and that is open up all our ribbon bundles. We are going to kind of swoosh them open like a little flower. Doesn't that sound nice and pretty? When it comes to my mesh ribbon, it's going to be fine. Between the ribbon holding it up and of course our ruffles, it's going to be perfect. Any hiding ribbon, let's pull it out and just start opening everything up. I'm done opening up all my ribbon bundles, and this wreath in diameter is 24 to 25 inches depending on how I measure it, but that is quite a large wreath. What did you think of the wreath? I thought it turned out cute. What do you guys think? I thought it turned out so beautiful, and most importantly, it was fun to make it. In the comments below, let me know if you've ever done one or maybe are planning to do one of these wreaths. With that said, thank you so much for being with us. My family appreciates all your love and support. And if you are not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing for more wreath tutorials like this. For now, we're going to say thank you for being here, and we will see you all in our next video. Bye, my friends. Louise, say bye. Mwah! Say bye. Bye, guys.